off, hold on. You can probably hear me. So good afternoon. I really want to thank you for being here. This is a great opportunity for the police department to hear from our youth and also to share some things that may give us a better understanding of where one another is coming from so we can have better relationships. So I'll start. I'm Abdul Prison, the chief of the Seaside Police Department. And just to give you some background, because it's always good to know about a person and their background to get a better understanding of who they are. So I grew up in Bronx, New York. Thought I was going to be a break dancer. That worked out. So my mother moved us to LA before my senior year of high school. I lived there for about a year before joining the military. I was in the United States Navy for 6 years on active duty and I repaired computers. And then after that, I went into law enforcement. Never thought it would happen, but you know, we think we have control of our destiny, but sometimes there's a higher power directing our path. So I became the chief of Seaside, was blessed enough to be appointed as the chief here in March of this year. And I love the community. I love the opportunity to engage the community. This is another one of those opportunities, so I'm really happy about that. So with that, I will allow Officer Manny Fernandez to talk a little bit about himself.
Hello, my name is Officer Fernandez. I've been here in Seaside for about almost 18 years. Got hired in November of 2000. I'm not from this area. I actually grew up in Southern California. I came up here because of school and stuff and sports. What I've done at the department is I'm an instructor in a lot of various things. I've helped out with the field training programs. And I also try to help out the new officers that are coming in. As you can clearly see, my uniform is a little bit different than theirs. That's because I'm on the SWAT team. I just came back from the SWAT training, drove about 2.5 hours to get here because I wouldn't miss this for the world. I think it's very important, and hopefully we'll get to learn something.
Good afternoon. My name is Detective Dillon, Seaside Police Department. I've been employed with them for about 3 years now. I was fortunate enough to get sent to the academy with them. Before that, they weren't sending a lot of people through just because of the time, but I was fortunate to get sent to the academy. Went through 6 months, we went to the field training program. I was able to pass that, and now I'm a detective 3 years later. So I'm very fortunate. I grew up around Seaside, went to Seaside High School. So Seaside is pretty great.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Officer Suarez of the Seaside Police Department. I've been here about 2 years now. Currently working a patrol assignment. And I've been trying to partake in more community events such as this. And that's all I do.
Unlike the officers, I'm intervention and prevention. That's suppression. And we've gotten together so that we can tear that bridge down that's between youth and law enforcement. And we need to bridge the gap because it's so critical now because of all of the things that are going on in society and the myths that are going on. So I got with the chief and we started sitting down and we talked about certain things that we thought that would be real critical to the community, and one is relationships. So I'm Ted Black, I'm with the Seaside Youth Resource Center, and I work with youth violence prevention. So working with youth has been my passion for over 30 years. I have been dedicated to it. I have never veered from it, even when I was the general manager of Denny's restaurants, and I was doing that for 20 years. I've always worked with youth, at-risk youth, because I was at risk. And I was one of those youth that I didn't have the opportunities that I try to provide for a lot of the youth today. So just giving that little bit back means the world to me. Being able to team up and put programs together for you youth so that you guys have a safe passage up means the world. So you guys please give me undivided attention. Do not be afraid to ask questions, because when you ask questions, you solve confusion. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to turn it back over to the chief.
Thank you, Teddy. So just a couple of things. One, don't be a stranger if you get hungry, if you get thirsty. Throughout the presentation, please help yourself. There's a restroom on the side. If you've got cell phones, please silence them. And if you came in a little bit late, I'm holding up a couple of sheets of paper, actually one. But the first sheet is for you to fill out just for us to get some feedback and some insight on your relationship with the police and us particular things that we can potentially do better. And then the second sheet, you can write down questions you might have during the presentation. Now, keep in mind, you can ask questions at any point during the presentation. But if you would rather write your question down so it can be answered at the end, feel free to do so. So I'm going to pass these around. If you don't already have two sheets, the first one, we'd like you to fill out now. The second is for a question you might have and we can answer at the end. Thank you. And so with that, I'll just go ahead and get started with the presentation. So as Teddy said, there are things we want to try to do whenever possible to bridge the divide between you and the police department. So today is one step in that direction, and we hope to share some information that will give you greater insight into some of the challenges we face. It's an opportunity for us to listen and hear from you on the things that you expect from us and you need from us, and hopefully we can accomplish some things and come to some understanding by the end of this presentation. So, how many of you here know what Power Rangers are? Show of hands. You know what a Power Ranger? Okay, great. So just think if a slightly imbalanced Power Ranger got pulled over by the police in a make-believe world. So I need to set the stage. So just imagine a Power Ranger in some parallel universe that doesn't exist gets pulled over by the police. So that didn't happen, it would never happen. But I happened to see that online, and I just thought it was hilarious that this Power Ranger is doing all this stuff and pulls out a laser. Maybe in 50 years we'll all have lasers, but not today. So again, one of the goals today, I'm just going to go over what we hope to accomplish, is one, we want to have open lines of communication with our youth. That's very, very important. Your voice is important. Don't let anyone tell you it is not. We need to hear it. Two, we're hoping that by learning from one another, we can have safer interactions when we do come in contact with one another, when it happens to be in a law enforcement setting. We'd much rather have those encounters take place in arenas like this, where we just get to know one another as people, as human beings. But if you happen to get stopped, we want you to understand what the expectations should be from us so that we can have a safer interaction. And then laying the foundation for trust. Trust comes through getting to know someone, getting to know about their background, what makes them tick, and ultimately learning that they're no different than you are. They just might happen to have a different profession, they might be in a different line of work, or they might have a different viewpoint on life, but they're no different than you are. So who are police officers? Anyone want to take a stab at that? Because I'll say this too, I don't want to just talk to you over the course of 2 hours. I hope for this to be an interactive engagement. So, and I've got some candy, so if you answer a question, you might get some candy. Really good stuff too, like, who likes M&M's, Skittles? So, who are police officers? Somebody, yes? They keep the community safe. And that is true. So, who might they be? What kind of person would be a police officer? The person is trying to, I think, train, yes. I'm going to give you some candy. Is it too soon for candy? Oh. No. I'll let you take it. So, police officers are daughters, sons, mothers, sometimes granddaughters. They're no different than people you see in your community every single day. And that's me getting sworn in. And then me on the right, that's my wife and I out just like anybody else would be. We're no different. We just happen to throw on a uniform and try to keep the community safe 8, 10, or 12 hours a day, sometimes 16. And the community is the same people. And that's why it's important for us to develop these relationships so that you know we want to, one day down the line, hopefully you'll become a Seaside police officer because you've grown up in this community, you know the community needs. But even if you don't, you understand that we're no different than you are, and we want that connection, we want that bond, we want that strong trust. Some common myths about the police. So, a myth is something that you hear, but might not necessarily be true. Can someone tell me a myth about police that you've heard that you don't believe is true or has proven not to be true? Okay, you're warming up, no problem. So, for example, yes?
I heard some people say that you can't trust the police.
Yes, perfect. That you can't trust the police. Well, there are very many trustworthy police. Now, there are some, and I'll get to this a little bit later in the presentation, but there are some that are not deserving of your trust, and those are people who should not be police officers, and it's my responsibility to make sure they are not. But most of the people who are police officers are trustworthy, but you have to have a relationship with them to know that they're worthy of your trust. So many people watch television and they get their ideas about what police officers do and who they are based on what they see on television. So CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, is a very popular television show, and at the end of the show, they solve every crime. It takes them 25 minutes, or 22 with commercials. That's not real life. Sometimes it actually takes days, weeks, months, and sometimes years. We have solved cases that took years to solve. So it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of energy for detectives to solve some cases. So don't be fooled into thinking that it only takes an hour or two to solve a case. Police violence, I think this is important because this is something that you see every single day, whether you watch the news or whether you're on social media. You see where a police officer has done something he or she should not have to violate the public trust and to violate someone's constitutional rights. The truth is that happens very infrequently. Out of all the police officers in the country, and there are hundreds of thousands, 1% of interaction between police and the community result in some type of violence being used, or some type of force. Now, when I say force, that doesn't mean someone getting shot or someone getting tased. It could be an officer grabbing someone by the arm and putting their arm behind their back. 1% of all the interactions between police and the community, but that's not what you see on television. And there are reasons for that. Those things sell advertising, and that's how television stations make money. So they want to put the most egregious acts by police on television. And so since that's all you see, that's all you think. And don't get us wrong, there are people who overstep their bounds as police officers, and that's my responsibility to make sure they're no longer wearing that badge or that uniform. But very few instances between the police and the public end up in any type of force being used. And then why talk about it? Because it's important to get a better understanding of what we do, how we do it, and for us to understand what your perceptions are and what your real life experiences are with police, whether it be here or anyone else, or anywhere else. Because our job is to bridge that gap, because this is the Seaside Police Department, not any other police department. So even if you've had bad experiences elsewhere, we understand that, but we want you to know we're going to treat you differently if you've been mistreated elsewhere. So it's important to have those conversations so we know what the facts are and not just what we see or hear. Not to say what you see and hear is not factual, but I'm going to share some facts. So what is police work? It's a lot of things. But at its core, policing is working with the community to solve problems. Policing is not the police department telling you what we think you want from us and what you need from us. Policing is us listening to you and then us coming together and deciding what is in the best interest of you and your community and then moving forward together. It's about personal relationships. You need to know the officers that work in your area, and we're working to do a better job of that. We have not enough patrol officers. We like more than what we have, but what we want them to do from time to time is get out of their car and just sit down and have a conversation. Find out how you're doing in school or what sports you like, because you realize that we have a lot of commonality because we're all human. So we want to see more from that from our police department, and we hope that, yes.
Thanks for bringing this up. I've been taking my son down to the teen center, and I haven't seen an officer or anybody come down. I've seen them play basketball out front, you know, and I've seen the commercials on, you know, at once. I haven't seen any officers come by and actually maybe shoot some hoops for 5 minutes, you know, get that personal connection so they can see who the officer is, and the officer can see who the child is, and they can see, and they can relate in that aspect.
Thank you for bringing that up, and just so everyone can hear what he said he's taking his son down to the teen center to play basketball, do some other things, and he hasn't seen any police officers. And he's right. That's on us. And that's because we have not set the expectation as a department about what we want from our police officers, and that's changing. And one of the things that we historically do in policing is think that the most important thing is to go answer another call. So if someone calls 911, someone stole a plant or a car, we want to go 100 miles an hour to get there to take the report and then drive 100 miles an hour, I'm exaggerating, but get quickly to the next location and get another report. That's not what our job is, and it's not what it should be. It should be providing whatever service is necessary for as long as it takes, and then specifically taking time out of our day to go spend time with our youth at the teen center. Or if you're driving down the block and you see some kids kicking a soccer ball, stop, get out of your car, and interact with them. So you'll see more of that.
I work at Safeway, but Del Rio Safeway.
Yes.
Now, we know, as I work the night shift, and we know several of our officers, because we have to pull them out, you know, when things are going on. So we know them personally, so we have a connection with them, they know us. So there's that, you know, there is that personal connection, because when they respond and when they come out. And that's what I grew up in Seaside, how much, you know, and I've always wondered about that, you know, because I think that if there was more, I know you know me on a level of not just responding when there is a call, but when something's going wrong in an incident, then it's, you know, a breakdown between communication and being able to consider.
I couldn't have put that better myself. And that is so incredibly important. And these officers who are here today, they weren't mandated to be here. I sent an email out asking who would be interested in participating in the Youth Empowerment Forum. And they volunteered because they want a stronger relationship with our youth. And I see that transcending our police department. But again, you have to understand historically what the expectation has been. So I can't fault the officers for not knowing that this is important, because it wasn't something that was made important in the past. But it's being made important now, so you will see more officers out there interacting, getting to know people personally, because that makes the difference. When you get to know someone one-on-one and not just responding to a call where they might teach you. Thank you for bringing that up. The other important thing is, it's not just the police department's responsibility to reach and try to bridge that gap, or to try to resolve issues in the community. It's part police department, and it's part community. Just think about you trying to accomplish something. Say you play sports. You can't play baseball by yourself. You can't play every position. So you need other people on your team to help. And so the police department needs the community to be part of the team so we can all be successful together. So community policing, one of the things that we want to make sure we do whenever possible is create opportunities to get to know our community outside of a law enforcement context. So not a traffic stop, not responding to a burglary, not responding to some type of crime that might have occurred, but just a casual setting where we can just talk about anything but police work. So we had Coffee with a Cop, I believe back in April, where it was just, okay, where are you from? What do your kids like to do? I grew up here. These are some of the things that I like. And that's when you start making those personal connections, because you see so many relatable things in another human being that you might not have otherwise known. You see us in a uniform, you think we're robots, that we go plug ourselves in at the end of the shift and wait to get charged at the end of the next day. We've got families that we go back to that we love. They love us. We have sports that we get involved in. And you'll see other things. We actually want to give back to the community that we serve. More than just getting out there and protecting and serving, but also getting involved in nonprofits and other things that will lift our community. One of them is the Special Olympics. No one mandated or directed people within our police department to get involved in Special Olympics, but they felt a need to because they have compassion, they have heart, they understand when other people have less than they do. And so, of their own volition, they decided, let's do something to raise awareness and money for Special Olympics. So there are so many commendable things that officers do that don't get the type of attention that they should. As I shared earlier, because of what sells in the media. So Bears and Badges, which actually we will be hosting tomorrow at City Hall all day, and that's where there's an organization that collects teddy bears. Now, tomorrow in particular will be to try to set a Guinness Book World Record. Hopefully we can do that. But the purpose is to collect bears to give to children who might be suffering or who might be going through something, to just make their day a little bit brighter, put a smile on their faces. So again, this is not something that was mandated by the city or by the police department. It's officers within the agency that saw a need and felt the desire to do that. Was anyone here at National Night Out? Yeah, National Night Out was a lot of fun. So what National Night Out is, that's where the police department invites all community stakeholders, citizens, businesses, and we get together and just have fun, just talk to one another. And I'm glad there weren't more people there because you didn't see me dancing. So, it's just a time to get out there and get to know one another and have fun and, forget about what we do for a living and just try to get to know people as human beings. Building trust is the most important thing. Please don't pay attention to his vertical. I know it's not high, but that's because he's wearing a vest, allegedly. But building trust is the most important thing between the police department and the community. Because there are studies that suggest that when there is trust, people are more willing to communicate. They're more willing to share information about what's happening in the community that affects them. And so trust is the single most important thing we can do. And the way to do that is to get to know people personally, not just through professional interaction. So you will be seeing a lot of things in the next few months that has to do with the police department creating opportunities to get to know the community outside of the law enforcement context. And I just hope you take advantage of those because some of them are going to be really, really fun. So this video I'm going to show you, I would say is the most important way that any police department can build trust. And I'll talk a little bit more about it after I show you the video. So we're just going to do a little audio enhancement because it's difficult for you to hear.
Good time for a pizza break. Yeah, you might have to restart that. Yep. Give it a minute for him to come back. Bathroom break and a couple others. Maybe it'll fix by then.
So we'll get another chance to take a break. It's important. You all see this video, so grab the pizza really quick. If you get back like that, you might get past the box. See if I can get it.
Get it.
You know, I knew I was going to get pulled over. What do you mean? I mean, I've been working all day. I'm just trying to get to the store, go home. But I'm a black man. I'm wearing a hoodie. I knew I was screwed. I didn't know you were black when I stopped you. I was ready across the intersection from you and go through the stop sign. Yeah, well, a lot of people do, but I feel like I'm the one who gets stopped all the time. I'm sorry you feel that way. I don't know why you may have been stopped before. I can only tell you why I stopped you tonight. It's because you ran the stop sign, nothing else. You understand how scared I am when I get pulled over? Tell me why you're scared. Cops get nervous when they pull over a black guy. Now, I don't know how this is going to end. I just don't want to get shot. Okay, I get it. But a lot of things cause a mistrust. I never know what's going to happen either when I make a traffic stop. I want you to be able to trust the police. To trust me. I don't want you to be scared. The first cop I've talked to that understands there's problems. And I think that maybe if I could talk to other cops like this, I don't know, I'd be less afraid. If we could all talk because maybe everyone will be less afraid. Will you remember this conversation when you come to my car? It matters. More than you know. What's up, buddy? Good evening, sir. Good evening.
So the four key components of procedural justice, which you might have heard or might not have, but that is an important term. It's been used probably for the last 5 or 10 years, but procedural justice, voice is the first thing. What do you think voice might mean? Okay, you're eating. So voice means that we listen to what someone has to say. Listen, that's much different from hearing. Hearing is there's sound. There's something that stimulates your I was going to get a technical term, but something that stimulates so that you hear something. Listening is truly internalizing what someone is saying and putting yourself in their shoes. That's what listening is, and that's what voice, the very first part of procedural justice is. So that means we should be listening to you whenever we have interaction with you, even if it's in a law enforcement context, we should be listening, because voice is important. Studies, I have to refer to studies because I want to just give my opinion, but studies indicate that people are more concerned with how they are treated in the process than the outcome of the process. So just think about that. So what if someone came up to you and said, and they yelled at you, they screamed at you, they cursed at you, they treated you like trash, and then they said, oh, and here's $10. You wouldn't feel good about that, even though you got $10. But if they treated you like a human being and said, hello, sir, how are you? I hope you have a great day. Where are you headed? And they listen to you and they treat you with respect and with dignity, but they give you $1, you'd be more satisfied with the $1 than you would with someone who treated you like you weren't a human being but gave you more. And that's what studies indicate. So that's why voice is so important, for us to listen to what someone has to say. Neutrality. What that means is we don't have our minds made up. When we talk, we don't come with the mindset that this person is not worth listening to. They're probably already guilty because so-and-so just told me what happened. We have all been in situations where you hear something and you're like, wow, I can't believe that. How did that happen? And then you go talk to the other person, and you're like, oh, they didn't tell me that stuff. So it's important for us to approach things with a neutral perspective and not take sides. And then respect. I think we all know what that is. So no matter where you're from, no matter who you are, no matter who you know, you should still be treated with respect and with dignity. And it shouldn't matter what your socioeconomic status is, where you grew up, or what you look like. And that's what you can expect from us. And then finally, it's trustworthiness. That's being able to rely on the police to be honest and to truly care about their profession and put that above personal feelings. Again, trustworthiness is one of the very significant portions of building relationships, that you have to be able to trust what we say. And we have to be able to back up what we say so that you can trust us. And this next one I think is important, particularly here at Seaside and Central Coast, where we have a lot of immigrants. And we want everyone in the city of Seaside to know, regardless of your immigration status, you're going to be treated as respectfully and get the type of service and professionalism that you would get regardless of who you are. We really don't care. I guess that's the bottom line. We you are, we're still going to treat you with respect, with compassion, with dignity, and provide you with the level of service that you deserve. So this next video is a procedural justice video, but it's specifically about immigrant communities.
Why wouldn't you stop? I followed you for 2 blocks with my lights and siren. Hey, can you understand me?
Where I come from, if you cannot pay police, they put you in jail. I have no money for police. What will they do to me here?
What are we looking for?
We're looking for evidence, and we gotta find that victim, make sure that they're okay. Sheriff's Department. Sir, get your hands in your pocket. Hey, officer, you can't get away from him. Get away.
Wait, officer, I was the one who called. He was the one that was robbed.
Di mo magayo kung galantiwan ka. Dahil sheriff nito. Pwede raw ayaw na ikara. Sila tertin, wax to yung mukha ito. Maraway na animasyon ko talaga.
Thanks, Kate. We'll be in touch.
Shoplifting is a minor offense. I can tell you're sorry. It's gotta work itself out. Can you tell me why you're so upset? Listen, Salvador, I can take you home with me. No, please don't take me home. What's happening at home that you're so upset about? I'm ashamed of what I did. And I don't know what my family will think of me. But even worse, my parents might get deported if the police come to my house.
Hey, my man Abdul! Lead us home.
What, Abdul? Joanna?
How long you been in this country, man? 3 hours? Drive. That's gonna be fun. She's totally gone. Work this until she ain't gonna remember a thing. Hey, leave her alone. Who the hell are you? What you think is wrong? I'm going to call the police. You're not even from this country. You're gonna come out.
Yeah, call the cops. Yeah, what do you think they're gonna be able to understand you, let alone believe what you're saying? We'll just tell them that you were ripping us off.
What do you think they'll believe?
Sometimes the laws and customs here are confusing and scary. But I believe in this country. I want to save community. I want justice. I want peace.
هناك كانت دائما بلاد المهاجرين هم نسيج اجتماعنا هم are us. Our calling is to help and serve all people in our community. Everyone deserves to be heard, to be treated fairly, to be respected, and at that, we build trust.
Can everybody hear me very well, so I don't have to use the microphone? Yes. Like I said before, I'm Officer Randy Fernandez with the Seaside Police Department, and I've been here about 18 years. That video that you saw, are things that actually have happened out there in the communities, right? Where people accuse other people of, like, no, you're going to be the one that's going to be involved in crime or something because we're from the U.S. or whatever it is. That isn't true. It doesn't work like that in law enforcement. In law enforcement, we have a role that we have to look at everybody equally the same and give them the same opportunities, give them the same rights, and allow them to have a voice with everybody else that has a voice already. Okay? So, that being said, we are different, and we're on two different spectrums. We handle the city policing, immigration, customs enforcement, HSI, Homeland Security investigations. That's a whole different round of policing. They are a federal organization. Okay? They handle all their stuff. Please forgive me if I have to look at my notes real quick. Like with HSI, they handle the stuff in Homeland Security investigations. They handle things like Operation Predator. Okay? Those are people that they're seeking that are here, illegally from any country, that are being predators against children, right? So they go after people like that. They're not going to go after people that are hardworking, doing things for the community, with the community. They go after the higher predators, just like we're going to go after anybody that does, violation of the laws. Our role is that we enforce the laws, whether it's federal, state, or municipal laws. That's what we do. But we're going to do it with that same respect for everybody that we encounter. They also have what's called Operation Community Shield, right? That one is involving gangs. And they go after people that are involved in gangs from other countries that come here to the U.S. We look at it in a state, local working method when it comes to gangs or when it comes to dealing with, let's say the big topic right now is human trafficking, right? Because that expands throughout the country, throughout the states, throughout the community, throughout the world. For us, you have seen there what the video shows. It shows the differences in customs, right? It shows the differences in perception, right? And it also shows the differences in that the fears that people have about law enforcement, because in other countries, yeah, law enforcement is corrupt. Yeah, they do have to pay law enforcement in order to get out of getting a ticket or something, instead of going through a judicial process like we have. We have a judicial process that if you get a citation, you get a ticket, you're going to go through court, and the court process is where it's going to go ahead, and you're going to say your half with either an attorney or you're going to represent yourself, and you're going to say, hey, I'm going to defend myself this way because this is my belief, and this is what the attorney is going to say. In other words, you are innocent until proven guilty. In other countries, sometimes you're guilty until proven innocent. Right? Two different spectrums. It's very difficult for some people that are immigrants, whether it's first generation, second generation, it doesn't matter what generation it is, to really understand that that's not our role. Our role in law enforcement is not to deport people. That's not our main role. It's not. Our role is to enforce the laws of the state, okay, country, and municipal laws. I would want people to not fear the fact that somebody tries to use, because somebody's here either illegally or going through the process of becoming a natural citizen, to say, well, if you call the police, I'm going to have you deported. That's not true. That's not true. It's not going to happen. Okay? That's not true. If somebody fights somebody or beats somebody up, and they say, well, if you call the police, I'm going to have you deported, I'm going to make this up and make that up. That's not true. That's not how it happens. We have a due diligence to investigate said crime that anybody would be accused of. I would be derelict in my duties if I would believe just one side of the story. I can't do that. Morally, ethically, I can't do that. Okay? What I do is I want to hear both sides, 3 sides, 4 sides, how many other sides there is. If there's one witness, 2 witnesses, or one suspect, two suspects, versus one victim, two victims, doesn't matter. I'm going to look at them all equally the same and determine based on the set of articulable facts whether or not I have the actuality of the crime that this person is saying against this other person. Right? And even then, there is that judicial process, regardless if you're here legally or illegally, that you're entitled to. Okay? Everybody's entitled to that due process. Doesn't matter what country you're from. Doesn't matter what state you're from. Doesn't matter what city, okay, what municipality you're from. You're entitled to that due process. And that due process is very important to a lot of us. It's important to me, I know it's important to them, I know it's important to the chief. Because that's what keeps us with that checks and balances of neutrality amongst the community. And the first step is to understand that hopefully people would lose that fear of, well, I'm not going to call police because I'm here illegally. No, that has nothing to do with it. If there's a crime, report it. Okay? If you're a victim of a crime, report it. If you know that there's somebody that's a victim of a crime, report it. Because we're here legally, illegally, or in the process of becoming a legal citizen, it doesn't mean that you need to take that fear that somebody's trying to implement in you to dissuade you from contacting us in law enforcement. Because I'm not going to allow somebody like that to dissuade me from doing my job. And my job is to thoroughly investigate. My job is to thoroughly explain why I'm asking the question that I am, why, you said stop happening, why I'm contacting you, why I'm calling you, why I'm sending a letter or memorandum to your house asking if you want to meet with me, or leaving a message, or leaving a business card. Because we want to get to the bottom of the alleged incident or crime that's being reported. So hopefully, you would be able to pass this on, that if you've heard of people that are victims or heard of people that were witnesses to certain crimes, regardless if they're here legally or illegally, everybody gets treated the same. Everybody has the same rights. Everybody has the same due process, regardless of who you are. And the perception, okay? I just want to go away from that perception of what people from other countries believe that law enforcement is. Law enforcement is not that perception. We're a different entity. Okay? We're all individuals. Okay? The perception of somebody of me is going to be different from the perception of somebody of the chief or the Suarez or the Dillon. Or they're going to have different perceptions of us. It depends on how people interact with each and every one of us. Okay? I know that there's differences in customs. Okay? When it comes to different backgrounds from different countries. We know that. We get trained in that every single year in that. Every single year it's mandated that we get that. But training itself, that is provided just by the Department of State, isn't enough. That's where the community comes in and says, hey, in our custom, we don't do this, or we don't say this, or we don't act like this, or we don't touch a child on the head like this, right? Because in some countries or in some customs, that's a no-no, right? So for us to learn more, we have to also be the students, and the community would be the teachers. Okay? Because we don't want to offend anyone. If we do, my apologies. That's the first thing that I would say. But I like to learn. I'm always learning. I've been here 18 years, and every single day is something different. I'm always learning. Does anybody have any questions about immigration or reporting or crimes? So far, has anybody heard anything that we can dispel right now? No? If you have any questions, feel free to ask us.
Thank you, Officer Fernandez. So he touched on some really important things. So before I proceed, I need to ask two questions because it's very important. Hypothetically, if you are not a U.S. citizen and you live in Seaside and you call the Seaside Police Department, will the Seaside Police Department deport you? No. That's very important. We are not ICE. We will never be ICE. If you are a victim of a crime and you live in the city of Seaside, and it doesn't matter where you're from, call us and we will do our best to bring that person to justice, but you will not get deported. So I think I covered both of them, so I only have one question. If that needs to be answered.
Actually, Chief, I did get one from your
Yes, so in most cities, and particularly counties, and in this county, if you happen to be from another country and you live in the United States and you are the victim of a crime, there are certain things that you have a right to. And they will actually help you through the process, and you can be protected from being deported if you are a victim and you're not a United States citizen. So these are things, again, that are in the system to protect people, no matter where they're from, to make sure they can seek justice in this country. So, youth diversion, defer to.
Thank you. How many of you youngsters know what diversion means? It's to divert, right? You know, growing up in Seaside, as young bucks, whenever we did anything, and we got in trouble, it automatically went to the district attorney. There was no program set up for us as young bucks. Well, we've gotten together, Seaside Youth Resource Center. We've been working out with the SRO officers with the diversion program, which young offenders, first time, they have gotten together, police department have gotten together with Monterey County Probation Department and came up with, we call them tickets to the Youth Resource Center, which is not going to the district attorney. But we said we want to go a step further than that. We want to take this diversion process throughout the city of Seaside. When the chief talked about building relationships with our young people, building relationships in the community, that's very, very, very critical. And the only way you can build relationships is that you got to understand kids are going to be kids. That doesn't mean when you have the green light to go out there and create a misdemeanor so that you can come to the Seaside Youth Resource Center. That's not what that means. What that means is, until you develop those leadership skills, we know there's going to be mistakes. We know you're going to make mistakes. But we ask that you be treated as such. And you come to the Seaside Youth Resource Center, whatever guidelines that is set up through that diversion officer that is giving you that opportunity to be put on diversion, whatever guidelines he sets for you, you have to complete those guidelines. You have to obey all laws. There's going to be a list of things that are in a contract for you to understand the diversion process. But let me tell you guys something. That's huge. That is huge. I'm working with a young man right now, who has just gotten out of juvenile hall for stealing a golf cart. Okay, now I don't say stealing, I call it joyriding. They got in a golf cart and they took the golf cart on a little high-speed tour. They got, the guy noticed the golf cart gone, he called the police, they brought the golf cart back, police came, they jumped out, ran, realized that they was running because they took a golf cart, stopped, turned around, gave themselves up to the officers, and the police took them to juvenile hall. Now, it wasn't our city, thank God, because it was laughed at in court. I mean, we can't condone that type of behavior, but we do understand that things are going to happen. In the spur of the moment, you guys are already making decisions faster than a locomotive. You're up against technology. There's a whole lot of things going on in your lives. And we know that there's going to be mistakes that you make. But what we ask is that you understand that there is a process. And this diversion process is something that is so huge. I mean, I'm just really, really delighted to be a part of something like this. This is groundbreaking for the city of Seaside, where our youngsters have a chance to make it right if they get it wrong. So, again, like I was saying, there's a process. If you create a misdemeanor crime, and well, what's going to happen is they're going to take that misdemeanor crime, they're gonna evaluate it, they're gonna run it through the probation department, make sure that you don't have any outstanding warrants or anything in any other communities. Because you could have just came here, creating havoc, but did something somewhere else that we don't know about. So they're gonna do a background on you. They're gonna do the probation department, and they're gonna make sure that you don't have anything outstanding in any other cities. And if you don't have anything else in any other cities, then what we're going to do is they're going to sit down, they're going to fill out an application or a diversion application for you, and they're going to submit that to the Seaside Youth Resource Center. And at that time, there will be an agreement that you have already made with that police officer and your parent that you're going to go through this process in order to tear up this ticket. So this ticket won't go to the district attorney's office if you complete your diversion process. If you don't complete the diversion process, then the ticket will be sent to the district attorney and it will be prosecuted however the district attorney chooses to prosecute it. But you have an opportunity to make that wrong right. So if you guys have any questions at all about diversion, feel free to ask me. Most of you youngsters know that I'm down at 1136 Wheeler Street, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask me more, but actually, it's really open and shut. Instead of going to the Monterey County District Attorney's Office, the citation will come to us, okay? And we will have an opportunity to work with you. I enjoy working with youngsters. I enjoy giving you guys that second chance. I love seeing the graduations and all of the things that go on when you guys come to the Seaside Youth Resource Center. So, you know, I just feel honored to have the opportunity to work with you. So, you guys, is there any questions about the diversion program? Good. Oh.
Who's the diversion leader?
Actually, there's no youth diversion leader because it's actually that guy right there. We have taken it out of SRO because it used to be Patty. She used to be the one that was over youth diversion. But since the changeover with the SRO, and then we decided, hey, why just keep it in the schools? Why not make it citywide? Why not every officer be involved with youth diversion instead of one officer? So, I mean, so that right there in itself, you know, is bridging the gap between our young people and law enforcement. Because although there might be a crime that is punishable by sending it to Monterey County Probation Department, they actually have the opportunity to get that wiped off without being on their record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, what you just touched on is really an important point. And I'll try to do my best to make an analogy. So, in policing and in Seaside, at one point, we would measure the number of arrests we made. How many arrests did we make? And so, even as young as you are, you know that usually if something is being measured, people pay attention to it because that's what they're being measured by. Similar to if you're assigned homework and you know your teacher's going to check your homework, or your parent, you're going to do your homework. But if you're assigned homework and no one's going to check it, it's unlikely you'll do it. Or the odds are 50-50. So we don't measure arrests anymore. We don't. It's not a category that we pay attention to as a measure of whether or not we're being successful. We now measure diversions. How many diversions have we had? So what that means is, it doesn't mean you get a free ticket. It doesn't mean you can do whatever you want and there are no consequences. It means that now there's an option available where instead of you going through the Monterey County justice system, now you're given an opportunity to do something different and change your behavior, and that goes away. And you might not know it now, but if you are arrested at an early age, studies indicate that's going to be a negative consequence as you develop in life. And it's going to be much more difficult for you to get a job, to get into college. It holds you back as a person. So this diversion program gives you a second chance to make things right. Does anyone know what the word accountability means? Yes.
Take responsibility for your actions.
Give them the whole back again. No, just yes. It means take responsibility for your actions. Accountability means you have to answer for what you do. That there are consequences. So because we have a diversion program doesn't mean you're not held accountable. It doesn't mean you don't have to answer for what you did. It just means now you have to answer in another setting. There are things that are lined up for you to accomplish. If you do them, everything's right with the world and that goes away. But if you don't, then you will be held accountable for what you initially did, even though we tried to use the diversion program to remedy things. So it's really, really important. I can't stress it enough that this is a philosophical change in the way police approach challenges with our youth and not looking at the criminal justice system as the solution. So that's not me next to that, by the way. So anyway, I put that up there because people have different perceptions about police. But the vast majority of police are in the business, are in this profession, because they want to do the right thing. And my job is to create an environment where they can do the right thing, where they feel comfortable doing the right thing, where they are encouraged to do the right thing. And some people view police as role models because it takes a lot of sacrifice to do this job. And I'm not saying this to say, oh wow, police have it so hard. I'm just trying to give you a perspective on this job and this profession, that it takes a special person to make the sacrifices that one must make in order to do this job. Families are at home on weekends and on holidays when people are out at 2, 3 in the morning trying to keep you safe. So I'm not saying look up to us as role models, but some people do. And my dad was actually a New York police officer for 20 years, but it never crossed my mind. Never thought about being a cop. But he was a role model for me just because he was a cool dad. Just because he loved me and tried to make a better way for me. Now, see, so this is where we really need to hear from you. So with everything that you've seen, let's start on the national level first. What are some of your experiences from what you've seen or heard about police on a national level? Yes?
Well, we see people being shot in the back.
People being shot in the back.
I mean, one guy got shot in the back. The only thing he was stopped for, because he was running away, was back child support.
So someone gets shot in the back, running away from the police, simply because they hold back child support. Anyone else? Yes.
Police firing their guns on accident.
Police firing their guns on accident. Yes. Anyone else? You got enough candy, so. Anyone else? Yes. Police brutality on the news, specifically with regard to African Americans. Anyone else? So all of this is true. All of this happens. And unfortunately, when there are things that occur in another city, another state, it has an effect on police officers throughout the country. So even if it didn't happen in Seaside, people who don't have experiences with us, don't know us, don't have a relationship with us, might think that that could probably happen here too. That cop right there, he's probably another one that's just waiting to do something. That's why it's so important for us to develop these relationships, because there are people out there who make very, very bad mistakes, poor judgment. I can't speak to anybody's intent, but those are people who probably shouldn't be wearing this uniform and this badge if the decisions they make are the ones that they make. And it's important for us to show you what police officers should be like, and not what you see on television. And that's why, again, this forum is so very important. So what's your experience with police officers in Seaside? Yes?
Usually police giving out stickers to kids.
Usually police giving out stickers to kids. Yes?
Helping like get some love.
Help with tips on walking home. Very good.
Chief, let me tell you some of the things that I've heard.
Yes.
As being a resource officer.
Some of the things that has been brought to my attention working with youth is that whenever there are 2 or 3 individuals hanging out and they got their hoodies on and their pants sagging, police are right up on them asking for identification. Another thing is that whenever they're walking in a group, the police will pull up, turn around, turn their lights off, and watch them. Sometimes they came into altercations with police getting out the car, asking for their name, and by them refusing to give their name, they have been wrestled or tussled with in some kind of form or fashion, resulting in the kid running away and the police officer chasing the kid. These are just some of the things that have been brought down to me working with youth.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
I have one.
Okay. You don't need a mic.
No,
Bring it to-
I don't need my, I work with young girls, and one of the things that I've heard, because they have brothers, is that if there's 3 or 4 kids and siblings and they have a fight, that the police automatically have gang related. And just because you have a fight don't mean that you're in a gang. And just because you might be Hispanic and you might be black and you might be Asian, it don't mean that you're in a gang. It just means that you have a fight. We look at it different when, because I work, I'm just gonna say it, because I work within the Department of Corrections, when a bunch of officers go to the bar and have too much to drink and they have a fight, it's simply a bar fight. When a bunch of normal people that are not in uniform go to a bar and have a fight, it's gang related. And so that is something that we need to look at, and I heard that from maybe 2 or 3 families, that when trying to get the young men to do something, as well as the young ladies, and they just don't, I don't know. It just, you gotta meet in that middle somewhere. Just because you have a fight doesn't mean you're in a gang. It just means you have a fight.
Absolutely. And Lisa and Teddy, I want to thank you for sharing that, because those are some of the things we need to talk about, because it probably wouldn't have been brought up by the youth, and that's okay.
Another thing that comes to my attention from youth, if my brothers and sisters are in gangs, I'm labeled as a gang member, and I don't even have anything to do with gangs. And that needs to stop.
Thank you for touching on all that. So, is it safe to say that we all have perceptions about people based upon what we hear and what we sometimes see on television? Is that safe to say? And so there's this thing called implicit bias. That simply means that you feel a certain way about someone because of what you've seen or heard, but not because of your personal experience. So, I'll just give you an example. And I think you can all probably understand this. So I've got a colleague that lives in Texas. So he was at a Walmart, and he's an African American, and he was there with an elderly Caucasian woman, and they're in the electronics section waiting for someone to come help him. So they're just conversing, hey, where's the help? And she says, I don't know, but I've got to go and get their attention. So this elderly Caucasian woman yells at the top of her lungs, help, help, help. 3 people run over that work at Walmart. 1 is Caucasian, 2 are African American. The Caucasian male asks my colleague, what did you do to her? The 2 African Americans ask her, what do you need? Why do you think that happened? Why do you think one person approached asking, what did you do to her? And the others, what do you need? He said racism, labeling, it's because of those implicit biases that we all have. So one of the things that our department will do, in addition to many other things we're trying to do to improve our professionalism, is to have implicit bias training. Which means that now we all have these biases, but sometimes we need to know we have them. Sort of like people that have some addiction, you have to recognize that you have that addiction in order to try to get over it. So if we have that training that teaches people, it's okay to have it. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're racist. What it means is you grew up in America. Because many of the things that you see on television in America are to paint a certain picture about who certain people are and who certain people are not. And that's not anyone's fault. So with this training, hopefully, in similar situations, it won't be there are a group of people on that corner that look a certain way, so they must be up to no good. Won't be, okay, this person got into a fight, and because they're of a certain ethnicity, they must be in a gang. And my responsibility as a leader is to make sure those things don't happen. But I think training will help in changing people's perspective and outlook on others that don't look like them, or didn't grow up around them, or they haven't had an opportunity to interact with throughout their lives.
But I think
Yes.
it also has a personal responsibility. I'll give you an incident. So I was walking down the week. I had a red sweatshirt on. Officers going by where Belmar is going by. I crossed the crosswalk. I'm going down because I just woke up because I work the night shift, so I'm going down to get something to eat. Cross by, but I look back. So the officer goes down, comes up and around, and then starts asking me. He stops me in one of the driveways and asks me if I live there, asks me if that's my name. But my stepdad has worked with several officers through the years, working driving a tow truck. There's some different things that I know to shoot down. I had said, no, that's not my name, and I offered to show my ID. By doing that, the officer resolved the situation, and that was it. But I stepped up personally too and said, hey, that's not me, what you like to see. I think we all, as a community, have a personal responsibility also to understand what the officer has to go through as well. Because just like my stepdad used to tell me, when Pastor showed the video, officer comes up, the officer does not know what's going on in the car. First reactions are, there could be a threat. You do not know. My stepdad used to tell me, keep your hands on the wheel. When the officer comes up, you ask the questions. And if you got to make an act up, if you got to get to the glove box for your registration, say what you're about to do. Say, I got to get into the glove box. Because they don't know what to expect. You don't know what's in the glove box, you don't know what's going on. You guys are in also a fair position that nobody knows to do that. It's our responsibility, but it's also, I don't know how to put it, but somebody needs to put it out there of what you guys have to go through as well. Because it's not fair to the expectations. It's a life or death, it could be a life or death situation for you guys. You don't know. And that's what on both sides needs to understand. It could be that way for you too. What to expect. Break down the situation. My cousin, he went off, turned around one time, he's young still. No, they come up there, I'm going to say this, I'm going to call, tell them to call their CEO and everything else. I go, why jump to that conclusion to start? I go, if the officer's rude to you, then you go from there. But if the officer's not rude, find out what the situation is first.
All right.
Thank you. So that there's some truth to that. It's responsibility on both parties to do the right thing and treat people with respect. And he's saying sometimes citizens need to understand the other perspective. I will say this, everything you said is factual. But also, if a citizen doesn't behave in a manner that's respectful, we've got to be professional and understand there's probably a reason historically why certain people respond differently. So certain people walk through life and have a different expectation and a different projection from other people than others. So we have to be sensitive enough to know that certain people historically have been mistreated by police, and we're not the people, but they still see that uniform and make that connection. So we've got to exercise a little bit more patience, a little bit more professionalism. Now we would love if they did everything the right way, but we have to be understanding and know there's a historical context that we need to be sensitive to. And it's not like everybody in this country has always been treated the same way, because that's not true. And to this day, it still isn't true. So I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. I'm just saying that we as professionals have to be more.
I agree. It starts off, when you guys show up, you're in the lead of the situation and how you guys present yourselves and lead the situation. If you seem to be a threat, it can come off as a threat, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
And your tone and how you guys respond can actually confuse the situation. But growing up in Seaside, I have a lot of friends that turn around and been in and out of jail. You know, they've several county prisons. And I think that there is a disconnect. You know, they look at police officers in a bad light. And growing up, kind of did too, because those were my friends. But working at Safeway, I see a different aspect and talking out communication with officers. I see different aspects. It wasn't just I've been with Safeway for 22 years. So when it was
Congratulations.
When it was just when it was in Monterey up the street, there was Seaside PD that came in, there was Delaware PD that came in, there was Monterey PD that come in, and you talk with these officers and you see how human they are. But that's where the disconnect is.
I think the other day it's about being able to connect, because I think we've got professionals here who have compassion, who have understanding, who have heart. And if they can be in a position where they can relate to people in the community in a setting like this, where they can connect with them like, oh, you know, Officer Suarez is pretty cool. Wow, Officer Dillon, I thought he was a certain way, but wow, that guy's kind of cool. Same with Officer Fernandez. So it's about getting to know them as human beings. You know, I've been in policing, and I'll come back to you, for 26 years. And if you just go to people and treat them as human beings, they're like, wow, I didn't expect this from a cop, because I've always thought cops were a certain way. So we can start building those bridges and destroying those stereotypes just by presenting ourselves as human beings. Yes.
I have a question. How will we be able to bridge the gap between kids who feel they've been abused by police officers and police officers that still might have attitudes with these young youth because they see them quite a bit? How is that gap going to be bridged?
Good question. So the way to bridge that gap is more events like this. Not where we're pulling somebody over in a traffic stop, not where they're hanging out somewhere and we're responding to a call. 3 juveniles could have broken into a car and we're like, hey, what are you doing? And it's that inquisitive setting. That's not what we want. So it's a setting like this where they can hear from us, we can hear from them, they get to know who we are. So we're going to be doing more of that. We've got, I want the cat out of the bag, but we've got Party with a Cop coming up. Because, you know, we got to change that up. It's not always coffee. Some people want to dance. So it's settings like that where we can invite our youth or something else that appeals to the youth. Them going by the teen center, playing basketball. Them walking down the block saying, hey, what you guys up to today? And just talking about anything. And not a law enforcement question or inquisition. It's that, and also the youth have to be willing to listen, just like we need to be willing to listen. And maybe things have happened a certain way historically, but we're here to change that.
Instead of you dancing, you might just rap, you know?
I might do that too. Because I could spit when I was young. I stuttered the first time on the mic, but after that I was good.
The reason I ask this question, I mean, it's wonderful always wants to hear, but the ones that really need to hear it and see the change, they're not here.
Right.
So those are the kids that I'm saying, how are we going to bridge the gap with those youngsters and the officers?
This is how.
Because there's no trust.
Yeah, this is how. So what I've asked our patrol officers to do, and again, this is something different from what they've done historically. When you're on duty, call out, when I think it's a signal 101, we just created a signal where it's really community policing. You get out of your car, instead of just getting out and, you know, being suspicious of what people are doing, say, hey, what are you guys up to today? Hey, I'm not running you guys, I'm not asking for your ID, I'm just here to talk. That's it. And just start doing that. Welcome to California.
They want to take off running.
Well, we'll wait till they get tired.
So I'll answer your question.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll give you an answer. The answer is this. It's going to start, like Chief said, with communication. But if you call me to your house, I'll sit down and communicate with them. I'll sit down and talk to them. But if they listen, it's a different story. So that comes from the home, comes from the school, and from us. So if we can individualize it, that's going to be the best outcome. Because it's a one-to-one, right? Okay? But it's got to be willing to listen on their part and be willing to listen on my part. I've been here 18 years, I've been willing to listen. But a lot of times, because of the bad stereotypes against law enforcement, and because we wear that uniform, or this uniform, people say, nope, you're like every other cop that I see in the news, and you're like every other cop that I see on the show. That's not true. Treat me as an individual, not as a group of bad people that have done bad decisions while being in law enforcement. So if somebody calls me to their house and says, hey, I need you to talk to my son or daughter, I guarantee you that probably 100% of the department will go and talk to your son or daughter. But it's whether they're going to listen to what we have to say and listen to the advice we got to give them. And for us to listen back to what they have to say. And that's going to be the bridge. That's going to be how you get that gap closed.
So they really will come if you call them to do something like that? Just, I mean,
I've done it hundreds, if not thousands of times.
Yeah, they'll come.
But what I've seen is that kids or young adults or whatever, they just get frustrated, their eyes get glazed over, and they're looking at their parents like, really? But again, they gotta have buy-in into that. Right? You know, I'm not a bad guy. I'm not a bad officer. Okay? A lot of people will say, oh, you stopped me for no reason. No, there's always a reason. Okay? There's 29 law books in the state of California. I only know 2 of them front to back. Okay? I don't know the other 27, but there is 29 law books in the state of California, 29. Okay? Most of us work on the penal code and the vehicle code. There's educational code, fish and game code. There's just way too many, right? But those are the laws. And I'll be willing to sit down with anybody, and if you ask me a question, I'm going to answer it. Okay? I'm going to answer it. I'll answer it. If you ask me a question specific, I'm going to answer it. That's just how it is. Right? A lot of you here may have seen me, may have seen some of us, but if you call us, we'll go. Right?
Yeah. Thanks a lot. And it is a challenge because of all the historical baggage that comes along with that person. So we actually have to work harder to reach those people and can't believe that we can do the same things to develop relationships with them as we can with everyone else who's historically had a good relationship with the police. So we've got to work hard, and we're willing to do that.
You know, it took a long time for me to be comfortable with police, my background. And raising my kids, that was an eye-opener to me. Making sure that my kids didn't grow up and walk like I walked growing up. And so, my daughter, when she turned 13 years old, they test their skills down there at Claire's and got caught. And so that day, it's always going to be on my mind because my sister was down at the Olamar Center singing for Martin Luther King. I'm marching for Martin Luther King, and my daughter down there stealing. Okay, so I'm like, well, first I blamed my wife because I told her to be in the march, and my wife said, no, let's go to the movies. Well, this was their movies. And so my only recourse was to go down to the Seaside police station, tell my daughter that because she did a crime in another city, that our city was going to issue a warrant for her, so I had to go down here and clear up this warrant. So when I went down there, I seen Borges and I said, Borges, I need you to come to my house. But what I need you to do is I'm going to be sitting in the car with my daughter and I need you to come up there with your lights on. Then I need you to say, passenger, please step out the vehicle. And so Borges went along with this. And when she looked at me, when the police pulled up, and I go, they're not here for me, they're here for you. Get out, don't get me shot. and so when she got out of the car, Borges got out and he goes, I understand you were in he went with the whole thing. I understand you was in a shoplifting in Monterey. And so I got out the car and I said, what's the problem, officer? And he says, well, she was involved in a shoplifting in Monterey. And I go, well, we're gonna see if I think she should go to jail. And I said, okay, can we take this in the house because I don't want the public, in my business. So we went in the house and Borges sat down and talked to her. And Borges knew me from a while, from when I was, public enemy #1 type cat, and he explained everything to her and the opportunity that she had. And my daughter has never ever broken the law again. And I owe that to Borges because when I called him, he came and he was sincere about making a change and a difference in her life. So, the fact that kids don't buy into the officer coming to the house, it's up to the parent to make sure they understand that that officer's there for a reason. And that they're calling that officer because they're trying. I don't know. Not done.
I mean, I know.
Yeah. But anyway, I just, that is a resource, and I just encourage parents to use that resource in the event that, they can't solve the situation themselves.
So he killed the battery. That's all right.
Yeah, I do that sometimes.
So police contact and behavior. Does anyone think that your attitude can impact what happens when you interact, not just with the police, but with anybody? Do you think with a positive attitude, maybe something more favorable can happen than if you had a really bad and negative outlook and you were angry and yelling? So I'm not here to say how you should or should not behave, but I think we all know, no matter where you go in life, a more positive outlook and a more positive interaction will likely result in a more favorable outcome. And it's no different than police. We're going to be professional, but maybe, okay, I was going to write a ticket, but this person was really nice. I'm not going to write one. I know I've been there before. I have my mind made up. This person did something. They were speeding. I'm going to write them a ticket. And then the person was honest. You know what? I was just an idiot. I got this brand new car. I know I shouldn't have been doing it. I got my son in the car. I was showing off. You know what? Just slow down.
So is that a myth that you have? Is that a myth that you have a certain amount of tickets that you have to write in a month?
Absolutely.
That's a myth?
That is a myth.
Wow.
There is no quota of a certain number of tickets that officers should write. I will just tell you what I have preached my entire law enforcement career in supervisory positions. If there's crime happening in a neighborhood, just get to know who the people are. Because in most neighborhoods, it's a small percentage of the people who are responsible for a disproportionate amount of crime. So if you get to know the people in the neighborhood, they'll tell you who's doing it. You don't have to get out canine, and forensics. Somebody be like, hey, you know what? That's so-and-so. They do this, that, and the other, and this is how you can catch them. So we don't advocate go out there and write people tickets because the police department doesn't get the money. The city gets the money. And if we have to, we will, but ultimately a ticket is to try to change behavior. If we can get away with a warning, great, but sometimes some people deserve tickets for the way they drive. But we have no quota and we have no expectation on how many citations or tickets an officer writes.
So when you said that there were, something that you said earlier that, something about a ticket, but you didn't write the ticket. So if an officer attempts to write a ticket, or they started writing a ticket and then they decide they don't want to write the ticket, can they like pull back that ticket, or because they started writing it, they have to write it?
I'm glad you brought that up. For a couple of reasons. One, the ticket can be voided, but it's a lengthy process. And sometimes it's more hassle than it's worth. And once they start like, you know what, I'm gonna finish, because I gotta jump through so many hoops to void a ticket. And sometimes it could appear a little on the suspicious side that you start to write a ticket and all of a sudden now you're not writing it. Well, why didn't you write it? And now they've got to explain why they stopped. Is it someone you knew? It was because somebody said, hey, that's my cousin, my brother, don't write him a ticket. So sometimes they just go through with it. But what we're trying to do is get warning tickets. From what I understand, our department does not have warning citations. That should certainly be an option. Because there are times when you just want to warn someone, more than just a verbal, don't do it again. Sometimes if you give them a piece of paper, it changes their behavior. So we want to have warning tickets or citations that officers have as an option. So we're working on that. Again, being argumentative and disrespectful most times will not help your situation.
Can you stress that, please? My son definitely did that. Now he's sitting in the front, he really no
Being argumentative and disrespectful will most likely make the situation worse. So, some of you are not old enough, but you will be. So if you happen to be operating a vehicle, obviously you have to wear your seatbelt, not just because it's the law, because it protects you. So if something happens, that seatbelt restrains you so you're not moving at 50 miles an hour like the car was moving if you collide with something. So it's for your safety. And, you know, if you happen to be driving and the police get behind you to pull you over, just pull over in a safe location. Don't just stop where you are. Try to pull over in a safe location. Keep your hands visible. Again, I think it was mentioned, the difference between policing and most professions is that most professions deal with what I would term the probability. They play the odds. The probability is there's a 1% chance of this happening or 2% chance of this happening. But in policing, we deal with possibilities. And it's possible that this could happen, even if it's only once. I don't want to put myself in a situation where I could get hurt or worse, because we have to deal with possibilities instead of probabilities, because that's not something you want to gamble with when it comes to your life. So, again, if you're driving, the officer has, you have to have your license, your insurance, and your registration. If asked, you have to provide that.
So then what's the, I like what you just said about you guys deal, so because somebody over there said earlier, you have to see it from both sides, because it's still your goal to get back home safe, as you know.
So before you finish, and it's also our goal for whoever we're talking to get home safe.
But why when an officer pull a person over, there's like 4 other cars with just that one person?
I can only speak in generalities, so I don't know the specifics, but part of it could be wherever you are, those people aren't doing anything. And they're like, oh, someone's gonna stop somebody. I've just been driving around, nothing's going on, let me go by. Sometimes it's because that officer, he or she might be suspicious of something, who knows what, and asks for assistance. But many times, officers just want to go by. I'm not doing anything. You know, like for example, just the other day, I was driving down the street and Officer Miguel Montes, our vehicle abatement officer, was doing something. He was probably getting ready to tow a car. So I was like, hey, let me stop. You know, see what he's up to. It was no situation, nothing. I said, hey, let me stop. That could very well be what other officers are doing. And it's sort of like something that's ingrained in you. You always stop to see if the other officer might need help. They might not, but it's like a courtesy.
And that's good insight because a lot of citizens feel like unless you just said that, nobody would have been, probably nobody in this room would have ever thought that. Because people just feel like it's an overkill. That so many people, so many
Right.
officers are pulling over one car, but you just made it make some sense as to why they might do that.
Yeah, and that's a possibility because I see it happen a lot. I'm not doing anything.
Y'all ain't gonna be playing basketball, but you
That's right. Why are 5 cops playing basketball with 2 kids? So that's the problem I have. And again, argue your case. If you feel that you were pulled over and it was not justified, argue that in court. It's not something you should argue on the side of the road. So we're going to do something exciting. We're going to demonstrate a mock traffic stop. And I'll let them take care of that. Thank you. It's a bro, man. Bro hand.
All right, so the goal of this, just like you guys said earlier, to give a little insight of what we look for, as well as to stimulate conversation of what you guys feel when you get pulled over, what we can do better when we're contacting you. A lot of times, we maybe respond to a call, we do traffic stops to enforce the laws. So this is just one of the contacts that we're going to show you. We have 2 scenarios. One's going to be a good contact, one's going to be a bad contact. We'll do the bad contact first, and then go to the good. But like I said, the goal is so you can see what we're thinking when we're doing a traffic stop or talking to someone, and then what you guys may see that we don't, or what you may feel that we don't, and so we can stimulate conversation where we can make everything easier for the whole contact itself. So. All right, so driver, right? You're driving the car, okay? All of you? All of you? Oh, so.
All right, just so, since I gave you a break last time, this time I'll give you a ticket, okay? So I'm going to need you to favor sign the ticket, but I sign the ticket out of the engagement deal, just promise to make your report. Sound good? Yeah? All right, you take it. All right.
All right, so that's bad scenario. We go to the good scenario, and then we'll talk about it after, what you guys saw, what we saw. Hello, Seaside Police Department. How's it going?
Good.
You know why I pulled you over today?
Yeah.
Why?
Did I have my phone?
Yeah, are you in a hurry? Going somewhere?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
School.
School? What school do you go to?
Seaside High.
Seaside High, okay. You're taking all your buddies here to school too?
Yeah.
All right, well, do you have license, registration, insurance, I can take care of real quick? Thank you, okay. All right, so you guys aren't late for school, right?
No.
Okay, you're gonna go to school, not ditch or anything?
No.
Doing all your homework, getting good grades?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so don't worry yourself on it, okay? Because if you get an accident, then you're also gonna hurt all your other passengers, okay? So just gotta be a little more careful, okay? All right, and your license plate, no ticket stage, just don't make it happen, okay? All right, have a good day, guys. So as you see, the second option obviously went a little bit smoother. Wasn't a lot of conflict. It went through quicker. Just a couple things to point out that we look for. So number one, there's 4 people in the car. If it's day and night, it may change the scenario a little bit, but generally speaking, 4 people in the car, 1 police officer. We might want to have another set of eyes. There's 8 pairs of eyes in here, or 8 eyes in here, versus just the 2 I have. So it's easier to have another officer here to help look for safety. Because the number one goal of every contact we have is safety. Because in this line of work, there can be something that happens, and it happens in a split second, and we have to make that decision to help save our lives and save someone else's life. So safety is always number one. So like you saw in the first scenario, he had his hands in his pocket, he's reaching down. In a vehicle, especially with 4 people, he has to focus attention on that, and that's not something that's regular, you know what I mean? If someone's going to be reaching underneath your vehicle, why are they reaching for it? People usually don't keep their license there, their registration, their insurance. The officer's not asking for anything, he's reaching under the vehicle. Why would he be doing that? And then hands in his pockets. There's numerous reasons why we ask for you to put your hands in your pockets, but pretty much the reason is because hands are the things that hurt you. They can punch you, they can grab a weapon, anything. So as long as we see your hands, we feel comfortable. It keeps our heightened senses just down a little bit. So like on the second scenario, we didn't have to ask him for his hands or anything. It just made us a little less on edge, and then we were able to have more of a conversation and go through the business that we pulled him over for, which is running a stop sign. And just like the chief said earlier, they were cooperative. So for me, if they give me less trouble, that makes me less inclined to give them a ticket and just talk to them, see what they're doing, and see why they're out. Maybe if they're out, early morning hours, why are they out so early when they're so young? Oh, they're going to school now. I know. If I sit in my car all day or all night and don't do anything and don't contact the public, then how am I bettering this community if I'm just sitting in my car and I don't meet anyone? This way, I meet these four young men, and they're going to school. I know they go to Seaside High or wherever else. So this is also community policing, where they're able to meet me, have a good interaction with me, and I'm not able to have the same with them. And then maybe I'll see them in 5 years, and when I'm walking down the street, I know they live in a certain area, I'll wave at them versus not knowing who they are when they have their hoodie on at night. So I already know who they are, what they're up to, and that they're a good person. So that's pretty much our goals.
Well, one of the things that, because none of you guys asked who any other kids were in the field.
Sure.
When in reality, in the real world, you're going to want to know who they ride with.
Sure.
These 2 in the back, they could have gang ties. You don't know. I'm just saying, in this scenario, there whether it was the action, the factuality of him not having a driver's license the first officer pulled up on him, okay? In the real world, everybody would have got out the car. I'm just saying.
One of the reasons I did that is because, you know, to speed up the process. But however, it is true, you know, if I'm pulling them over late at night, maybe there's a recent crimes that happened in Seaside. You know, what are they doing right around the city of Seaside? Are they going from house to house? Are they looking to commit crimes? Or if they're driving a business district, maybe they're going to a store. You're definitely right. I mean, maybe someone's on probation, we just want to check to see who they are, what they're up to, and what are they driving around in circles in the city for. And also to meet them. So like I said, later down the road, say I see them walking down the street. I already know that they go to Seaside High. I already know me. I'm talking before they were cool with me. So it's a two-way. Number one, to do our job to make sure that if they're committing a crime, that we take action with that. But number two, also to be a part of the community to also meet them. Because like I said earlier, if I sit in my car all day or all night and I don't do anything, I'm never going to meet the people, and then they're never going to meet me, and then I'm not efficiently doing my job to help this community overall. Any other questions? Do you guys see anything that we did that we may improve on, that you maybe, if you were in their shoes, that you may have felt a different way? Is there anything that you saw with us that makes sense?
When the first time you asked Jared what his name is, maybe they would be wondering why you asked them their name when you wrote for, and why you write it down on this paper.
Okay, so this question was, maybe they might be concerned with why we're asking their name, why we're writing their name on a piece of paper. And just like the chief said earlier, when we conduct a traffic stop, it's for a lawful reason. So maybe you committed a traffic violation, maybe you're just involved in a crime. So if we're going to pull you over, it's for a reason. And we can do definitely a better job at explaining all that. However, like I said earlier, our number one concern is safety. So we're always looking around to make sure a car's not going to hit us when we're talking to them. So we can explain that later down the road. However, sometimes we have to do business first. But if you feel that, hey, why are you asking my name? Ask the question. And, as long as you're cooperative with us, we're not arguing back and forth. I'm sure the officer will be able to explain that as long as they have time for that. So. Any other questions, views? Sure, go ahead.
So, not anything that I've seen in today's little skit, but something that I have seen a couple of times in the community. When it comes to the tickets, when asked to sign in a real world, you don't sign a document that you don't agree to, because once you sign your name to it, you're agreeing to the document. And officers have told a number of people that if you don't sign your ticket, we're going to arrest you and you're going to jail. Why is it that a person has to sign something that they don't agree to?
Sure. So pretty much a ticket is just a preliminary court process, essentially. So say they ran a stop sign, they may disagree with that, and I have a different view of that. So there may be some conflict. So if you look at the piece on the ticket, it actually says that you're not admitting guilt, that you're just promising to appear in court. So there's a court date on the bottom, and say you don't believe in our view and you're for sure you're not running the stop sign. That's what the court is for us to bring all the evidence that we have of that specific case, as well as you bring the evidence and your views of that, so that we can bring that in a peaceful setting to mediate that issue. But I will tell you this, that just like I said before, you're not going to guilt when you're signing the ticket. You're just promising to appear on that court date to take care of the matter. So when they do not sign the ticket, that essentially means that you do not want to appear on that court date, and you'd rather see a judge right away. So that means that you would be arrested, and you would be taken to the county jail, and then arraigned when the judge is in session next. So that's pretty much what it means. So, and maybe, in the past, an officer's like, okay, if you don't sign the ticket, you'll get arrested. That's true. However, like I said, I try to do a better job in explaining myself and explain the process, because not everyone knows the process. So, did that answer your questions? Okay.
Or are you the first person
as long as I've been in Seaside, I don't have no run-ins with the law. I've never had a run-in with the law. I had a valuable, when I was young, to young people. When I was your age, I went to Yosemite Park and decided that I wanted to steal something. And my mom told the police and my 6th grade teacher, and they took me to everybody I gave something to in the back of the police car and made me get it back or I was going to jail. And to this very day, you can't even give me too much change. I don't care if you gave it to me in Japan. I'm going to give my passport and go give you back the money. Because I don't have no run-ins with the law. But you are the absolute first. I tried to get my grandson to come today. He don't have nothing for the police. And it hurts my heart because you is first line of defense. And you don't get that because of the way that he was treated. If it would have been explained the way that you just explained it, I wish I could have just captured your moment right there and let him hear just how you broke it down. If she would have never asked you that question, I still wouldn't have had a resolve. That the way you just broke it down, and the way you just broke it down, it makes sense. So at some point too, I think that you guys probably should do a seminar for parents, because some parents, they don't understand what the rights are. And you just explained that well, and as long as I've been in Seaside, I've never heard a cop explain that it's always an either or. If you don't do this, basically you're going into custody. When you feel like you're right, but the way that you just explained it is because people don't study the law because they don't plan on waking up trying to break the law. So when you feel like you're right. But the way that you just explained it, I would have been like, okay, officer, you're right. I'll sign this. I'll agree to this, and then hash it out in the court of law. The way you just explained it was so elegant. The way you just did that. Thank you. What's your name?
Dylan.
Don't
forget this guy.
I'm a nomination for employee of the month.
So I appreciate this dialogue, this interaction, because what he just demonstrated is procedural justice. So when he's out there and he writes someone a ticket, and they say, I'm not signing it because I didn't run the stop sign, he's going to say, well, this is not you signing it meaning that you're guilty of it. What it means is that you're saying you'll show up at court. If you don't sign it, that's essentially saying you're not going to show up, or that you would rather see a judge right now. And if that's the case, I would have to arrest you. I don't want to arrest you. So that's why I'm just asking you to sign the citation. If you read it, it just means you're going to show up in jail. Anybody can relate to that. Anybody can relate to that. So we don't want that adversarial relationship where it's because I said sign it or else. We're not in the business of doing that. When there's an opportunity to explain why. Because I think most people will understand if we explain, oh, that makes sense. Okay, let me sign it.
You don't want to be in the business of doing that.
We don't plan on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, but you've been in the business of doing that. He just made it make sense to me today.
Right, and so what I'm saying is, you're absolutely right, that's not what we want to be going forward, and that's why we're going to have procedural justice training for the entire police department, and that's why I've told the police department on many occasions that procedural justice starts inside the police department, and that's what we treating everybody with dignity and respect, giving them a voice, being neutral, being trustworthy. Because I've got to demonstrate it if I expect them to go emulate it or to treat other citizens like that when they go out in the community and their peers, so it's very important. So this is exactly what we want to see.
Yeah, because the bottom line is you have a job. You have a job. There are some things that people force you to really step into your role. So it's the way that you just explained that was so good.
Thanks for the report. No, I'm just kidding. He could be. I'm gonna probably go a little bit faster because I want to make sure we get out of here on time. But I promise you won't miss good stuff. So, believe it or not, there are laws that pertain to bicycles. You're on the road, you're supposed to obey the traffic laws just like if you were in a vehicle. You're not supposed to ride your bicycle on the sidewalk. And if you're riding your bicycle at night, you should have a light that shines. And then, if you're a pedestrian, there are also laws for pedestrians, believe it or not. So if you're walking in the roadway and there's no sidewalk, you have to walk in the opposite direction of traffic. It's against the law if you're walking with traffic. It's something to be aware of. And with that, we're going to do A pedestrian stop, in the event that an officer tries to have a conversation with you, stop when you walk.
I want to help for this one. All right. Who else? Somebody else, right? We'll get you next. There.
All right, so oftentimes we get certain citizens that will call and say something to the effect of, in front of my house, let's just throw out an address, 1200 block Amador, I see suspicious drug activity going on all the time. I know you guys just arrested this guy last week for selling drugs in this corner. I see the same guys out here this week, etc. Sometimes what we do is called pedestrian stops, or if you see people in the area between a particular time, let's say it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you see these two guys sitting out here. Sometimes we'll come and try to identify and see what's going on, see what we can find out. We'll use that same scenario, say we're 3 o'clock in the morning, 1200 block Amador, right now I see Peter, I see Toby Peter hanging out, just want to contact him, see what's going on. Hey guys, how's it going? The officer for Seaside Police. We get a lot of calls and complaints about drug activity going on in the area. What you guys up to? We're on 7 lunch. Really? 3 o'clock in the morning? You guys getting lunch? Oh, you guys play the new week, so alright. You guys have any anything like that? How old are you guys? 17, 13. You guys have parents know you guys are? Parents know? Yeah. You have school or anything like that? No? Okay, what's your name? So I'll write down your name, what? Okay. So write down your guys' name, check, make sure you guys are clear. If you guys are clear, no probation, no bonds, anything like that. Probably call your parents. It's pretty late, right? 3 o'clock in the morning. So call your parents, make sure they know where you guys are at. Know where you guys are at, everything's good. I'll send you guys home. Alright?
Cool. So just that scenario, you didn't know what they're doing in the area. It was a high drug area, so obviously we try to enforce laws, especially if it's a high drug area. We want to contact someone that's out at 3 o'clock in the morning. So if you contact them, we found out that they were going to 7-Eleven because they had a long night playing video games. So you found out they're underage as well, so unfortunately you had to call their parents and pick them up because it would be unsafe for him to allow them to go down the street at 3 o'clock in the morning. But overall, he was cooperative. They're cooperative as well, so just made a painless contact, and then it answered his suspicion in his mind that they're not drug users, drug dealers. They're simply just going to the store, and he would have known that unless he got out of the car and talked to him, which he did. So. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Now, in a situation where officer just said that there was a phone call, suspicious drug activity going on in front of the house, and you guys roll up, 2 individuals are standing out there. Now, these guys, of course, they're not going to be they wasn't even dressed for the 3 o'clock at night type cats. You're going to have your hoodies on, you're going to be in all black. So when you roll up on that situation, I can see the approach, but I can see it getting just a little bit more different. I'm not knowing that these cats is just coming out the house and playing video games and they only go to 7-Eleven just at that time of night, So, and they were cooperative. 9 times out of 10, when you run up on cats at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're not cooperative. They either gonna run or they're just not, they're gonna be shut down on you when you walk up on them.
And if they run, there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, somebody wants to take off and run on us, and we don't have a reason to actually stop them, other than like, hey, because we're in the area, we're not gonna go chasing you or anything like that. If you're gonna run, we're gonna run, but if you don't have a reason, a lawful reason to continue, we're not gonna do it. So.
I don't understand that. I totally understand that. I'm just saying that's, typical, nighttime, crowds, they just not sitting around waiting for the police to come up and make friends with them.
Using an example that one of the workers back said earlier, 3 guys and ladies hanging out in a park, maybe they're gang related, they're not. We won't know that until we get out of the car and talk to them. But historically we do have gang issues in Seaside, and our goal again is to try to combat that. And people are committing crimes, we want to bring them to justice and not have them commit crimes in Seaside. So our goal isn't always to throw a gang issue at them or pull something out of their pocket to arrest them for or anything. It's not that. It's just our goal is to see what are they doing in this area and to make ourselves visible, and also to meet the public in the whole situation. That way, if we see them hanging out at the park the next day, we already knew, like talking on the previous day, we already knew, hey, maybe their mom doesn't like them hanging out at the house, so they go around the corner of the park and hang out. Yeah. Any other questions? Anything you saw on the previous? Sorry. No. Anything else? Thank you.
Speed up a little bit. And officers sometimes, and this is not an everyday situation, but you've seen on television where, unfortunately, an officer used deadly force because someone had what appeared to be a real gun that was not. It's extremely difficult to tell which one of these is real and which one is not. So we hope that people don't go with the cops and BB guns and that. So the fake one was one on top. So we don't do this anymore, but years ago when they started issuing tasers, one of the reasons was so people wouldn't have to use deadly force. And that's not to mean that a taser in some weird circumstance couldn't cause something to happen. But they started issuing tasers so people wouldn't have to use asps and handguns. So I actually got tased many years ago, and it doesn't feel good, I can tell you that. Now, no ill effects going forward, but it didn't feel good. So we wouldn't have to demonstrate what a taser does. I thought I'd show a video from the movie. It's kind of funny. And this is not how you would do a taser training, by the way. And, so how should I respond to a police officer? This is what best case scenario, and as we've covered, sometimes when you have a more positive disposition, it leads to a better outcome. So, be respectful, be courteous, be cooperative, the same thing that you want a police officer. And there's no reason why an officer can't tell you why he or she is doing what they're doing. There are a narrow set of circumstances and a small percentage of the time that they're likely not to because it's a really dangerous situation. Maybe there's an alleged person with a gun. So you don't want to say, well, I got a call that you have a gun on you. That's not something you're going to do. But absent extreme circumstances, well, the reason I stopped you is because You ran a stop sign. The reason I stopped you is because there was a call that went out of a vehicle that was involved in a hit and run, and it matches your vehicle description. That's why I pulled you over. And that's something that you should expect from us in just about every situation. Suspicious behavior, and sometimes people in the wrong place at the wrong time. And you might have heard the term probable cause. This is the legal definition. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but essentially that means that an officer has reason to believe that you committed a crime, you are committing a crime, or you might commit a crime. And it could be because of the situation. It's 100 degrees outside, you're wearing a trench coat, and there was a bank that has been robbed a number of times, and you, with a shotgun, and you've got a bulge on your side. There's reason to believe there's probable cause to stop you and detain you because of what has happened in that location historically, similar to what they were referring to with a drug location, a certain activity that's consistent with drugs.
Can't they also use it as an excuse to mess with you too?
It could be, and that's why the good thing is, at the time, you're like, okay, yeah, here you go. And then you could follow up. Have you guys had any bank robberies at that location?
Yeah.
What's the description of the person that allegedly was in the area that has robbed those banks? And then you can see, oh, wait a second, this has never happened before, and this is what this person told me. And then it's your responsibility to let us know, and then we can do our due diligence and say, why did you say that? Because the last thing we want is for people to be preyed upon because of what they look like, what they sound like, where they're from, or because of perceptions. And we want officers to respect citizens, but act off of intelligence, real intelligence, not stuff that, hey, I want to stop this person, I'm just going to say that. It does happen in some departments, not Seaside. So, example, of why an officer might stop you. They get a call of a burglary at 2 in the morning. You could be doing nothing related to that burglary, but you're out. You know, you just went somewhere, you're headed home, and you're carrying something that is shaped like the object that was stolen in the burglary. And if you're wearing dark clothing, because the truth is, most people aren't good at describing people that were responsible for crimes. They'll tell you the person was 5'6", and dark skin, and it turns out they're 6'3" and light skin. It's just that the brain works. The brain is an interesting thing. Sometimes you project things in your brain, or you tie things together that are not factually consistent with what happened. Just a quick example. This really wasn't a topic, but I'll just mention it because I want to underscore how unreliable witness testimony is. So years ago, I went to a school, and there are people from all over the world in this school. It was the FBI National Academy. So they showed us a film, I think 3 times in a row. And before they showed it to us, they said, now we're going to ask you some questions about this video after we show it to you. So pay particular attention. They show it to us one time. Hey, did anybody see what color gloves the person was wearing? People are guessing. Nobody knew what it was. Then they showed the video again. Can anybody tell me what shoelaces the person, just these random questions, nobody got it right. So these are people who have been in law enforcement for decades, knew they were going to be asked questions, and still got it wrong. So imagine how reliable, not to say that it's completely unreliable, but it's not as reliable as people might think. So people in stressful situations, and you're expecting them to recount everything word for word, or it just doesn't happen in real life. And that's just an example of people who knew they were going to be tested, and still got it wrong. But that being said, we can't just say, we're not going to pay attention to the description that they gave us. It's probably wrong anyway. That's all we have to go on. So we have to go on that. Yes.
You said it was an FBI training. Is it in law enforcement, all law enforcement training? Because I see the same exact thing that you were showing. Not exactly, but the TV show Running Games.
Yes.
They actually have it on there.
And that's a prime example. I actually have podcasts and I get to listen to. But it teaches you how the brain works, and it's not the way we think it works. This is the mission statement of the police department. The mission of the Seaside Police Department is to provide quality service and partnership with our community, and that's important. We work together to enhance and maintain a safe environment. Our value statement, Seaside Police Department will seek to provide equitable and treatment and to our diverse community by adhering to the following shared principles: accountability, integrity, honesty, loyalty, respect, responsibility, teamwork, and service. So, does anybody know what a police body-worn camera is? I know everybody does, right? So, we're about to get, actually we have body-worn cameras, but right now we're waiting to hire a person, we're not waiting, we're trying to hire a person that's going to be responsible for all the data associated with what we film. So we haven't issued them to officers yet, but we hope to within the coming months. And there are a few things that body-worn cameras do. They give you an unbiased view of what happened. Now, people can interpret what's on that video, but the video is the video. And oftentimes, they will clear officers who were alleged to have done something to violate policy. And sometimes they will reveal things that officers did to violate policy. But since you all have seen plenty of that on TV, I figured I'd show one that exonerates an officer.
Well, not too many people like getting pulled over. No one I know, and nobody wants to take it.
But a traffic stop along I-77 for road drivers in White Bear teamed with Facebook to complain about an officer who posted his page.
And as Jasmine and Rob found out, there are two sides to every story. It was a typical workday for Canton Patrolman Jones. He was patrolling I-77 South when he noticed a truck speeding down the highway with the headlights out. He pulled the driver over and gave her a ticket. But just a few hours later, the Canton Police Department's Facebook page had a new review from the woman's husband stating, quote, "Watch out for Jones Jr. badge number 157. Was a jerk to my wife, must have needed to make a quota. She was driving and didn't know her lights were out, and he treated her like trash and was disrespectful. Watch out for this guy." Canton Police quickly responded by posting this body cam video of the traffic stop. You be the judge.
Hi there. Good driver's license owner. The reason I stopped you today is for your speed. You also have heavy headlights on. So, all right. We'll take 1 second. Register over the car? Yeah. Well, listen, what I'm going to do is instead of writing me a speeding ticket, I'm just going to issue my headlights. Because it's an equipment violation, so it doesn't cost as much. So just make sure you remember to turn them on. All right. What's that?
Within minutes of the body cam video being posted to Facebook, hundreds of comments came flooding in. Acting Chief Dave Davis says that this is why it's important to see both sides of the situation.
It's not the officer should have his reputation clear.
Now, we did reach out to Mr. Morgan, but of course he didn't have a response. As for that post that he posted on the Canton website, it no longer exists. Reporting from the African Mobile Newsroom, I'm Jasmine Monroe, Channel 3 News. I guess body cam videos can help into the truth for police and the public. Thanks, Jasmine.
So, yeah, the officer appeared by, I think all standards, pretty professional, but he was alleged to have been unprofessional. So, I'll put this because I like to start with positive because I'm a positive person. So, if you were treated well by the police, and I think we all can relate to this in many different venues, but sometimes, even if you're treated well, you just going about your day like, oh, that was nice, that person was really cool. They did a really good thing that they didn't have to do. But we don't reach back and tell that agency about the good work that the person does. So I encourage you, if you come across an officer that does something nice, that's extraordinary, that's not something that is part of their typical responsibilities, you know, just let us know about it. We like to highlight our officers' good work. By the same token, if you feel you were mistreated, there's an avenue for that. Make sure that you obtain the officer's badge number and agency. Now, what I've heard is that some people are sometimes reluctant to do that because they feel it'll make things worse if you essentially make known that you're probably going to complain on that person. Just look at the car number. Every car is assigned to a particular officer. Look at what time of day it is, where you stop, because we all know where the officers are at any given point in time. Just get the car number. but if not, give me badge number, what agency they work for, ask to speak to a supervisor, and then there's a formal process of referring it to internal affairs. And when internal affairs investigates any allegation of misconduct, one category is unfounded. Essentially, that means it didn't happen. So if you come in and you say at 3 o'clock on Saturday, September 8th, Officer Dillon punched me in the face in Monterey. Well, we know that didn't happen. He's right here. So that would be unfounded, and he would never do that. So, and then exonerated means, yes, the officer did it, but it was lawful and it was proper. So let's say hypothetically that someone is getting placed under arrest, and the officer asks, can you put your hands behind your back? But the person's like, no, I'm not going to jail. Well, at some point the officer has to try to physically put that person's arms behind their back. So if the officer does that and handcuffs them, they're like, well, the officer hurt my arm when they put my arm behind my back. And we look and it was just, then it's exonerated. The officer should have done that. It was lawful, it was necessary. The officer's exonerated. That's not excessive force. Then not sustained, and this is a really difficult one, and some of them are, because citizens, first they want to be heard, and sometimes they might not know what the rules and the protocols are, but once they're explained, they're like, oh, okay, now I understand why they did that. I thought it was against the law or regulations, but now I understand. But the one sometimes that's frustrating is not sustained, meaning there isn't enough information to prove that it happened or that it didn't happen. So that's a situation where, say it's just the officer and a citizen, and they allege that the officer did something, and there's no way to prove or disprove that it happened. That's what not sustained, not sustained is. And then sustained means whatever the allegation of misconduct is, it did occur. Now what I have learned is in California, we can only tell the person who reported the complaint that it was sustained, but we can't tell them what happened. We can't tell them whether the officer was counseled, whether the officer was terminated. All we can say is that the allegation was sustained. Oh, we're right on time. Perfect. I got back on schedule. So, this is a representative illustration of you. You all can help make a difference in so many ways. Part of it is just by you being here today. By willing to listen to us, willing to ask questions, willing to probe and find out more about the police department and why we do what we do. But there are other ways that you can get involved. What we're putting together is a Citizens Public Safety Academy. What that means is we're going to invite citizens from Seaside to learn more about the police department and more about the fire department. How we're trained, what rules we're asked to follow, why we do certain things. You'll see officers rarely lead with their weapon side, because it's just, like, I feel uncomfortable doing this because you're trained to always have it back behind you in case you need to prevent somebody from taking it. So you understand why we do what we do. Some of it doesn't make sense if you see it from afar, if you don't have any context. We have a cadet program. There's the superstar right there. So that's where you have an opportunity to work in and with the police department as we develop relationships, as we do certain things. She worked with us National Night Out, and hopefully one day she'll have one of these uniforms on, but it's, if nothing more, it's an opportunity to learn about the police department and have an intimate relationship with the police department. The Explore program, we had one, but due to losing so many staff personnel, we could not continue, but it's something we're going to bring back. That's sort of like the Boy Scouts, but for police. So they go through little class settings and class environments where they learn about police work. They have skill competitions where they compete against other Explore posts, demonstrating their skills as it relates to public safety and doing traffic stops and investigating things, that sort of stuff. And then, above all else, this is something you have complete control over. And this is your attitude. And this is not just for this setting, but in life. The more positive you are, studies suggest the healthier you be and the happier you will be. And sometimes it's hard to do, but think about the positive things that you have. The positive things that you have going for you. You know, you guys are here. You're healthy. You got a family that cares about you, that's looking after you, that's trying to lead you in the right direction. Think about the positive things, and you'll be happier and healthier. And with that, any questions about anything that we've covered or not covered? Yes?
I don't have a question, but I want to make an announcement.
Sure.
October 30th at the Great Victory Temple Church, they will be back at our church doing the same thing except with parents.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, but I got flyers.
And it's
so
called,
make sure you come out.
yeah, it's called a community listening session.
What day?
The 30th.
This month?
October.
October.
Yes.
Because it's important that we listen.
And bring as many people out as you can.
Yes. Any other, has anyone written down any questions?
Anybody have a pen?
I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, if you need a pen to write down questions, you've got.
I'll pick them up. Anybody have these questions? No?
Okay, the question is, what happens if someone is intoxicated but is nice to police? Very good. So, it depends. Are they intoxicated but not in a vehicle? Are they just walking in? And in that case, we've got sobering shelters where we'll take someone and provide a bed for them until they're sober again. Or if there is a responsible adult who is sober, we will turn that person over to a responsible adult. If they're driving, it's a little bit different, because now you're endangering the lives of other people who are out on the road.
What if they're not with that responsible adult, but we can be willing to let them like contact someone and get them if someone will pick them up?
Yeah, so I will tell you, officers have a huge amount of discretion in the decisions that they make every single day. And we entrust them to make the right decision. So if that person is intoxicated, and usually if they're walking, they're not able to really say a whole lot.
Yeah.
But if they could at least say, call so-and-so, and here's their number, it's in my cell phone. That officer has the ability to reach out and call that person and say I'll wait for them. And our officers, from what I've seen, have that level of compassion and concern to where they would do that and allow a responsible adult to come pick you up instead of taking you to a sobering center or to jail. But I will say that we're much less likely to do it with someone behind the wheel because it puts so many people's lives in jeopardy. Other questions that have been written down? Any?
How do you?
Yes, please.
I know, what is the deal? Why do cops touch the back light when they pull you over before they walk up to your window?
Okay.
I've always been curious of that.
The question is,
do they do that like often, or is that just on shows or police shows that you see?
I will tell you why. So the question is, why do officers touch the back tail light when they approach a vehicle on a traffic stop? The reason is training, and it's really not the back light; it's the trunk. To see whether or not the trunk is dislodged and potentially someone is in there, so they walk past the trunk and go to the driver, and their attention is diverted from the trunk, and someone comes out of the trunk. Okay. Now, today they've got these little rip cords where somebody can be in there, but it takes longer and it makes a noise. So that's one of the reasons. Again, officer safety, and I think we touched on that. Officers, it's ingrained in them from the time they start the academy. Be safe. Be safe. This is how you be safe. This is what you do. And so they've done it for so many years. It's second nature. Yes?
She wanted to comment that if you guys could present this into like the middle school and high schools and also do it in like Spanish.
Absolutely.
Because it's a really nice information, but it's more better because it's a little children.
Right.
It's not so much.
Right.
Because
this day because the parent is working.
Right.
So, he is in the school, the class.
Yes.
It's not there because
Okay.
it's much children. Because it's a really nice, important information.
Right. We will definitely do that.
Thank you so much. I need and smile.
Yes. No, we can do that. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Any other questions? Okay, well, I got one more slide. I need to get through all of one of those people. So here's how you can contact us through the City of Seaside website, at Seaside Safety on Facebook, at Seaside_safety on Twitter. And I actually have a Twitter account. They twisted my arm. They made me do it. So I'm at Abdul Bridgen if you want to follow me on Twitter. And finally, I just want to really thank you for attending. I want to thank Teddy Black. I want to thank Officer Fernandez. Also Suarez. And Officer Bill. Again, they requested to be here. They were not mandated. They were not forced. That shows you that they really want to have a connection and an engagement with our community, particularly our youth. And I'm so proud that they decided they wanted to be a part of this without any encouragement, without any promise of special assignment or anything, because they really want to make a difference in our community. So I just really
Also, if you guys don't know, we do have a Seaside Teen Center. It's no charge, and it's Monday through Saturday. We encourage all of the citizens, the young citizens of our community, to be a part of that teen center. It is your teen center. I mean, we have everything. We have the latest technology in there. We have computers, video games, pool tables. We have big screen TVs. I mean, it's your world, and we just control the environment to make sure it's safe for you. So we encourage you guys to come down, be a part of that, because it is yours. It is what your parents go to work for every day. It's so that when they're paying their taxes, that money is going back into the community and is providing a safe place for you. So take advantage of that and come and see us, okay?
thank you. And before you leave, please turn in the sheets that I gave you to answer those few questions, because it helps us do a better job of serving you. So please provide us with that feedback. Thanks again for coming. There's plenty of pizza and water on your way out.